Good day everybody and welcome back to my channel. So I'm back on this. This is just an intro. Like I said in the last video, I'd already kept working, but it was going on for too long, so I decided to split the video up. So this is just the intro to the next video. So now I'll pick up where I left off in the last video, and well, because those clips are already recorded, I'll add them to this intro and then we'll continue from there. Also, I'd just like to say, I hope I didn't offend anyone with some of the things I might have said yesterday in the video with regards to, I don't know, people who haven't lived a certain life, not understanding things and just the way the world is and this and that. And look, you're entitled to your own opinion. I'm not trying to offend anybody. But from my perspective, as someone who's trying to better their life, I watch other people who are not trying to better their life and they receive more help than what I get. If anything, they get help and I get detrimented. And it drives some emotion behind it for me. And if that came across on camera, I'm sorry about it. But it is what it is. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. I hope no one thinks I'm talking personally to them or found it offensive. And hey, if you haven't got any experience in this sort of realm, that's fine. I don't expect you to understand. That's why I try and explain stuff in more detail so that people can try and understand. But I mean, unless you've truly lived the life and you've truly had problems in your life that have led up to that, it is honestly hard to understand. You can think you do, but I hate to break the news to you that you might have an idea, but you still won't completely understand. Again, don't take that the wrong way. But yeah, that's all I've got to say. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I hope I haven't upset anyone. This is just my viewpoint from someone who's trying to better their life. I've gone through a lot to get to where I am now, and I won't lie, I'm shocked that I still have issues where I am now. Years ago when I started fixing my life up, I thought, in a couple of years everything would be all gravy, you know what I mean? Well, years later, I'm still trying to work on small issues and finding it to be difficult, and a lot of the time not because of my own doing, but because of the way other people in the world makes it. So yeah, it's my thing. I won't talk about it anymore. That's just a bit of an insight on my life. If you see me sometimes, like I said in the last video, where I might say something and I come across rude, I don't mean to. And if I seem down one day or having a lack of motivation, that is my anxiety and depression. You see me other days where I'm not like that, like today, like yesterday. I'm either just having a good day or I took a vow. It's what I deal with. And what I try and do is deal with it in a way that makes me keep myself active. So basically, if due to anxiety making me walk around in circles, overthinking stuff and not doing anything, or due to depression making me sit there and do nothing, once I notice either of those two things, I'll do something to eliminate that and get myself active. And I find once I do that and I've gotten into a rhythm of doing something, I feel better. And so that's how I deal with me. I will say this, one more thing. I don't like talking about it too much. Like, honestly, what I've said to you guys is probably as much as what I've even said to a psychiatrist. I've been to one once or twice before, found that no use, never went back. I'm not the most open person like that. I deal with my problems myself. If it's something I can't deal with and I can't work out a strategy to deal with it, then yes, I will go ask for help. But as of current, I think I'm doing quite fine considering what I came from to where I am now, and I believe as long as I keep that mindset and keep, you know, saying to myself, hey, you got through that and that and that and that, you can get through this and this and this. I believe as long as I keep that mindset, I don't need help. So anyway, just want to put that out there. Also, if anyone struggles with anything, whether it be addiction, depression, anxiety, anything like that, and you want someone to talk to about it, feel free to shoot me an email. My email address is in my bio. I would be more than happy to talk about it. I'm a very honest person. I don't judge people. You know, and yeah, sometimes it's good to talk. That's something I've found. Like I said in the last video, talking to people who don't have an understanding is not very beneficial, but when you talk to someone who's actually been through it and made progress, that can actually be quite good therapy. So if you are stuck, shoot me an email. Anyway, on with the video. Alright, so I've done a crap ton of thinking about this, and I've got a few quite interesting ideas. So, where to start? First thing I want to do quickly, sorry guys, I'll just put this 47 ohm resistor oops, what am I doing? 47 ohm and 10 ohm resistor in parallel, making 57 ohms, close enough to the 68. Isolating this circuit from that. Basically like the 68 ohm resistors soldered back in there. Now what I want to do, obviously it's going to start up with the same problems that it's got. Let me just verify that. What the bloody hell? No. That's a problem. Hold on. You see that? There was no current on the... I put the wire in the wrong hole. Let's try that again. Yeah, no, unstable. On the edge of being stable. There goes the art. Right, so I thought about a few things. I made this ground rail that's broken at each end, so it's 2 grounds, to couple capacitors to. Okay, did a good job with that. But literally when I was laying the board out, I said that all these grounds on the board would get connected either to audio ground or to their own star ground and off the ground. I took a shortcut and just ran these 2 bits of green wire from the 2 ground points, the ground from the 2 current references, and the ground from the beta enhanced transistor straight to the power ground rail, which has got all the capacitive pulses, the current pulses in it from the capacitors. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect that green wire there and there. I'm going to make a little metal link that goes from there to the center point of those 2 points. That creates a star point there, and then I'll run a wire from there over back to ground. Same for both channels. So then we've got a ground rail for all the positive decoupling capacitors, a ground rail for all the negative decoupling capacitors, a ground for, we'll call it electronics ground, on each channel. And then audio ground, which I've already done. It's all the audio grounds get connected to a spot that's goes to a 10 ohm resistor that's then connected to main ground. That goes back star also. So I'm going to make those changes first. Trust me, I don't think that's going to make an ounce of difference to the problem that I'm having, but I was looking at it and I thought, what the hell, like, I just feel really bad in myself for doing that, because the whole goal of this thing is to build an amazing amp, and I went and did some body shit with the grounds. Yeah, I managed to split up the grounds trays, run separate wires, do everything else right, yet those 2 wires are soldered to the wrong spot in each channel. So I'm going to fix that. Now, I don't want to say too many things at once because I don't want to confuse everybody. But I'm sure you've all got what I just said through your head. I don't mean that in a rude way. Trust me, guys, sometimes I say stuff and it might come across rude. I am not trying to be rude. I don't have the best skill of talking. I'm really not trying to make an excuse. You know, like I actually have been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. I've been ADHD my whole life. I had a history of drugs. So you can't expect my speech to be perfect. If I say something that ever sounds a little bit offensive or a little bit rude, just not right in some way, please do not take it the wrong way. I do not mean it that way. If I've said it, like, chances are I didn't even realize the way it came across. And if I did realize the way it came across, it was after I said it, and I'm embarrassed that I said it that way. So just know that, please. With that out the way, I'm going to continue moving these wires. And let me say this, it's not so much because I had an experience with drugs that my speech was affected there. The Asperger's, yes. The ADHD, yes. The thing with drugs is when you hang out with people for years that do bad drugs, by bad drugs I don't mean pot, I mean, you know, meth, stuff like that. The people are degenerate people with a low IQ, and, well, if you've ever listened to low IQ degenerate people speak, it's gutter trash. I can't think of the word for it, but you know your typical junkie, the way they sound. You know, like if I want something, I'll go to the store and say, "Hi, how are you? Do you possibly have this in stock, or can you order this in?" A junkie might go in the store and be like, "Hey, brah, do you fucking have..." Yeah, I can't even impersonate one because I'm not one, but you get what I'm saying. Their talk is just, it's out there. So when you've got Asperger's, your ADHD, and then you hang out with people like that for a few years, my speech afterwards, I found I was swearing a lot and saying, what's the word? When you say a phrase or a word like an acronym, sort of the equivalent of swearing, but like life's a bitch or stuff like that. I found myself saying stuff like that all these other people were saying all the time. Originally it started just to blend in, act cool, all that sort of thing, but it ended up becoming part of my normal speech. And that's where the problem arose. I noticed it and I really didn't like it, and I put a lot of effort into changing it. And the funny thing is, although I managed to change it, I'm still always conscious of the way I talk, which I know it sounds funny, but it can be quite annoying sometimes, because double checking yourself. Like, do I sound like a, you know what? Because I used to, for example. And I guess the autism doesn't help either, because you're always self-checking yourself and overthinking stuff, and you know. But yeah, if I ever come across, I'll probably always come across different to most YouTubers, I just want to let you all know, rough upbringing, well, not a rough upbringing, but rough childhood, teen years, Asperger's, ADHD, bit of a crazy mix. So yeah. But I just hope no one's already taken offense to something that I've said. Unless you are a total dick and what you're saying has the pure intentions of being a dick, you're not going to upset me. And if I, you know, reply to you with something that sounds like I'm being a dick, well, that's me, and I'm not trying to be. I hope the other one of these is the same length. Should have checked that. Should have checked. Seems to be. Sorry about that. I was uploading a video off my phone and the battery was charging and I was recording and it made it overheat. Anyway, I had to make this thing a little bit smaller. Cut this one too long. Seeing as I've talked a little bit about myself in the past, I'll tell you this now. Look, I trust you guys, and you know what? If someone doesn't like me because of something that I say about myself, leave the channel. I don't want people here that are judgmental, or the sort of people that are, what's the mindset? Like, once you've done it, you can never change, or once whatever, always, or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. If you're one of them, unsubscribe. I don't care if I lose 100 subs today. Seriously, it's not what my channel's about. Yeah, I'm trying to get, you know, the 500 to 1,000 subs. Of course, I want to make money out of it. Of course, I want to get more content out there into the world, you know. But like I said, I would like it to be built by a genuine base. And also, I want to say, I do get that a lot of people who may watch these videos, being in the electronics field, probably haven't had the lifestyle that I had when I was younger. Most nerds don't get into that sort of crap. That was the interesting thing about me, having Asperger's and having ADHD. Having a mother that was Jehovah's Witness made my childhood very interesting at home. And I was in a very different situation to what most of you nerds, dare I say it, were in. So the way my brain dealt with it and coped with it was different to how a lot of people would do that. But that's just the way it was. And I can tell you one thing, other than damage to health and stuff like that, which, don't get me wrong, I pretty much got like 99% of it back. I don't think I damaged my brain at all, really. Like I said, it was more the dumbass speech from hanging around with idiots that rubbed off on me. And that's something you work on yourself, that's not brain damage. But the interesting thing is, I actually learnt stuff that if I never let that life, I never would have learnt. And now, when I meet people that are going through X or going through Y, I can talk to them and give them advice. And they're like, oh, shut up, you dick. You people think you know what you're talking. No, I actually do. And then they listen. And you can help people. The main thing I see, I watch a lot of these programs on TV. Not TV, I don't really watch TV, but on YouTube, where all these people go and visit people on drugs and rehab clinics and all that sort of stuff. And they're all straighty 180s. Some of them have got a past life. But even those ones, the ones that they say had a past life, their past life was popping a few eckies at a nightclub in their teen years or smoking pot. They weren't actually like junkies, dare I say it, right? In essence, they don't have much more experience than a straighty 180, right? And they're the people that are at those sorts of clinics. And no wonder people say that, you know, like, it's a terrible place and the people don't relate. And then you hear of some clinics that are run by people that actually have been through it, this and that. And they do an amazing job at recovering people. They have an almost like 90-something% success rate or 80% success rate. You know? I just think that's interesting. Anyway, this brings me to the last topic. I'm going to have to talk about this eventually because I know sometimes you guys notice I'm in a foul mood, but not just that. I have a lack of motivation. Like, I'll change like one transistor and I'll be like, oh, that's it. I'll be back later, and then I'll do something else and I'll be back later. And other times, like now, you'll see me working for ages and ages and ages. No, it's not just because I went and smoked some pot. Trust me, if it was that easy for me to relax my anxiety and I don't know if it's depression so much, but I'm not happy with myself still, even though I've made a lot of changes. You know, I would just go have a smoke. It doesn't, trust me, it doesn't do it. If anything, it relaxes me, but it only makes me ponder my issues even more. And then I realize the fact that I'm sitting there stoned doing nothing, and that makes me self-conscious that I'm not bettering my life anymore because I'm now doing nothing, and then that annoys me even more and gets me down even more. So I kind of find that counterproductive. Not saying I don't enjoy a bit of pot, but I certainly don't think that it's beneficial in that area. But now this is my number one gripe. So like I said, I grew up with a bunch of absolute, in my opinion, low life gutter scum trash. Yeah, the sort of people that steal stuff out your own backyard. Like my next door mate, I used to do scrap metal, and the thing that really upset me was I was one of the rare few scrappers that didn't steal my scrap metal. I actually went out, you know, I would go to job sites. I used to do construction, not just labouring, but building, plumbing, bathrooms, labouring, a whole lot, with the one boss. And I used to take home scrap from there. I used to drive around to council cleanup. I had quite a number of ways of amassing scrap. Every time I saw an AC unit getting taken off a building and replaced, I'd ask them, do you mind if I take it? And honestly, 90% of the time they said, yeah, no worries. And so I had a little scrapyard in my backyard. My junkie next door neighbour used to steal all of my scrap metal. All of it. I shit you not. And the worst thing that really gets me is this guy literally would go around cutting people's water meters off, taking like every tap on their building, external bits of piping, any copper down piping, a gutter he'd rip off a building, anything that was copper or an aircon that wasn't bolted down with 4 dyno bolts and what do you call it, ramset glue or whatever, and a cage around it, he'd take it, you know. And I would spend sometimes a week just to amass a pile that was $500-600. He'd go knock that off in a night, sometimes a grand in a night. Anyway, I shouldn't be going on and on about people that piss me off, but this is some of the stuff that I've had to deal with. I've gone off topic of what I was saying. Oh yes, the reason why I loathe these people. So this is just one example. There's another bloke around the corner. He's on heroin, he's on the needle. In case anyone's wondering. Never in my life. Never could, never will. Smoked it, yep. Had a couple of habits. Got these things called buprenorphine strips that contain naloxone. Smoked them. Sort of made the pieces a bit smaller every 2 days. Weaned myself off of that. Got some valleys. Took some valleys and some pot. Smoked a bit of extra pot for like, I don't know, a week or two after that. Guess what? Got myself clean in my own home. Didn't have withdrawal symptoms because I just weaned down and used stuff. So if you go, this is, I know I'm going to keep going off subject here, but here's another gripe. If you go to a doctor and you say, get me off heroin, they put you on methadone. You know what that does to you? Causes fluid retention, destroys your bone density, mucks up your liver, mucks up your kidneys, makes you build a wall around your heart. That's just what I know. That's just what I know. All right? And it's like 10 times as addictive than heroin. So you go to the doctor, help me get off this. Yeah, sweet, here. Take this. It's 10 times worse for you, or 100 times worse for you probably, and 10 times as addictive. So there's a drug that exists called buprenorphine. And this is what annoys me, because unless you go to a certain clinic, not a methadone clinic, some offer it, or go to a private doctor or, a private drug clinic, mainstream won't even offer it to you. Maybe some will these days, but it gets rolled out a bit more, and then it gets withdrawn a bit, and then it gets rolled out a bit, and then it gets withdrawn a bit. It's really bad. Anyway, the reason why I love this stuff is because you can take it for 5 to 7 days without getting a habit on it. And the way it works is basically when you use opiate, you have a receptor in your head that's basically, let's say it's a circle shape. And when you take the opioids, after about 2 days, that circle shape starts to become sort of like a funny shaped hexagon. And if you look at the molecule for an opioid molecule, it's the exact same shape. So what happens is now all of a sudden, although it seems like you have a physical addiction, you don't. It's this one thing in your head. But no other molecule will fill that receptor that's had its shape changed other than an opioid. However, buprenorphine does. So the beauty of buprenorphine is not only it fills the receptor, but it takes 5 to 7 days to get addicted to it, which means you can cut down your gear usage, because you can't take bupe for 48 hours after you've had a big dose of gear. So you cut down your big habit to something really small. You're not sick, but you're not getting stoned or anything like that. You're just not sick, right? And then don't use any, I don't know, mid-afternoon, go to bed, wake up late the next morning, take the bupe. It fills in the receptor. But the magic, here lies the magic. A lot of people don't understand this. They explain it the wrong way. Inside the bupe strip, it contains another substance called naloxone. Not to be confused with naltrexone, what they give people, the ambos, to bring them back. They both will do the same thing, don't get me wrong. But naloxone, what it does is it slowly restores the opioid receptor that I was just talking about back to its original shape, right? So think about it. You've got one drug that fills the shape of the receptor, but it takes 5 to 7 days for the receptor to start binding to it and shaping to it, and you become addicted to it. At the meantime, you've got another drug, so you're not feeling sick, you're fine, and you've got another drug that makes the receptor turn back to its original size. And yeah, you guessed it, within 5 to 7 days, you've gone from needing it, and you know, if you're not having it, you'd be freezing cold, bloody all blood circulation, you'd be tired, cramped up muscles, vomiting, diarrhea, you'd be a mess, right? Yet you end up fine, and you maybe feel a little bit lethargic, or maybe your stomach's a bit off one day, or whatever. You just take Valium, have a smoke, kick back for a couple of weeks. The Valium really helps because it's a muscle relaxant, so any more cramping and the tendency to yawn and stretch that you get, it just basically rules that out, gets rid of it. Anyway, this is my gripe, or my two gripes. One, doctors put people on methadone. They don't say, hey, take this stuff for 5 to 7 days, and then afterwards we'll give you, just one script. So you don't give them enough to start abusing it. Just give them one script. So, hey, we'll give you this stuff for 5 to 7 days, then we'll give you this other stuff for 14 days, and you'll be clean. Why do they put people on methadone? I've done it in my house, and I'm not proud to say this, but 4 or 5 times I kind of lost count. So it definitely works. Definitely. And it's not because I'm a strong-minded person. I'm not going to lie when it comes to that sort of stuff. I'm a weak-minded person, and it's very hard for me to get off stuff. So the fact that it works flawlessly for me tells me the medical industry is literally there to keep people on stuff that's not only worse for them and will make them more money because of the other illnesses it will cause, but they also don't want to help people get clean. My second gripe is this. All these people I was talking about, junkies that live around here, like my next door neighbour and people like that, they go to the doctor and they say, oh, I suffer anxiety, I've got back pain, this and that. Doctors give them Valium. Now, I don't use Valium now to get off gear because I've been off gear for years. But here's the thing. I have a bit of a, I don't know what you call it, depression, definitely anxiety problem. And all the medications that they want to give you out there do nothing but drain your energy, make you feel like almost killing yourself, take all your motivation out of your life, and make you feel like shit. If I take a Valium, I feel like a normal person. Would you believe I've gone to that many doctors I can't even tell you. I've looked like, over 15 doctors. I found 2 doctors that were willing, get this, to give me a sheet of 10 2.5ml tablets. For the record, I'd never even heard of them until then, because they're all 5ml tablets and they come in bottles of 50. 10 2.5ml tablets. I got given that twice and told to never come back again. My neighbour goes in there. People around the corner. And the reason I know this is because the only way I can get them is by buying them off said people. They go in there. Oh yeah, my bad back, anxiety, this and that. Yeah, sweet. Here's a script or 2 for 50. Come back next month, we'll give you another one. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? So I thought, okay, maybe it's because of the reasons I'm complaining about. So one time, this is obviously years ago, I went in there, because I've tried for years. And I went in there and I said, look, it's not just that, but I'm currently coming off the gear and it would really help me do that. And they go, oh, sorry, we also won't give it to people if we know they do drugs. I go, so you're telling me that the old guy that comes in here that's got black collapsed veins up and down his arms, withdrawn face, rotten teeth, track marks that stick out the sides of a freaking abscess all over him, isn't a drug user, but you give them to him. And then the doctor changed the story to, oh, there's only a certain quota of people that I can give them out to, otherwise Medicare gets suspicious of me and I could lose my license. Yeah. And knowing the person I am, I can guarantee you that the doctor's door was not on its hinges when I left. It might have been on one hinge, but it certainly didn't shut properly when I left. So, anyway, the reason I'm in a good mood today and I'm not losing my mind is because I got some. And the thing that pisses me off is that I got to pay $100, $100 for 30 of them, where these people, absolute junkies, can go to the pharmacy and pay $7 or $8. Like, how the hell does that even work? That's the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen. You can't help yourself. If you try and help yourself, you'll be stopped, and if you go to someone for help, they will make it worse. Or at least make a lot of money out of it, and usually create some other condition that's going to make more money in the future. That's what I found anyway. Alright, I've installed, whilst talking, the 2 rounds. Like I said, I don't think it's going to make a difference, but I'll still start it up quickly and we'll see if there's just a tad more stability. Actually, surprisingly, there was a tad more stability. Hold on. No. Like I said, I had a good feeling that it was not going to be that, but it's worth a try. Alright, I'm going to put the 68 ohm resistor here. Now this brings me to the next part. Remember I said I've got a couple of things I want to do, but I don't want to explain it all at once because it's going to get too confusing. Well, what I thought is if I can find my 68 ohm resistor, I know it was here. Oh, it's right there. I was looking for a blue one, not the carbon. So a lot of people are saying, you know, heavy filtering on the negative rail, and I was thinking about it. If you've got a 470 mic cap and a 47 ohm resistor, the time constant on power up, it's going to be quite slow. Now, if the top rail has got less filtering and the bottom rail has got more filtering, yeah, anyway, what I think is going on is what I said before. As it turns on, the 2 halves try and fight against each other. This causes current pulses in the rails and the capacitors, and it turns into just a resonating circuit. What I want to see, how would I explain this way? Hold on, let me think about this. Alright. Best way to explain this would be, what if I short the resistors to the positive rail? That way, the negative rail has a larger time constant and more filtering than the top rail. I just want to see what that does. No, instant instability. Even worse like that. So that's actually cool because that kind of sheds light on something to me. Because when I increased the resistor values, remember it got worse. I mean, when I decreased the resistor values, it got worse. Let's do the same thing for the bottom rail, but not the top rail. So now the bottom rail can start up quicker. It's not going to have as much filtering, but it can start up quicker than the top rail. No, that is equally as unstable. All right. Well, so this brings me to where it's going to start getting quite interesting now. I have a couple of things that I need to work out. For starters, one, why on earth is unstable just with a little bit less filtering on the power rails? I mean, are my cables really that long that I need capacitors on the rails that are that big with high resistance before them to make the rail not tip under startup enough to let it do its thing? I mean, I guess I could drag a power supply over here and connect it like literally right to the supply. I could do that. But anyway, before I do that, I've got two things that I want to try. Because ultimately, I like to build on amp that's stable under bad conditions. If I can get this stable with a meter, 2.5, 2 meters, whatever, of cable going to it, that's wonderful. That's a freaking stable amp. Nothing's wrong with that. If I can't, then yeah, fair enough. So, the current mirror. I was thinking about different ways of trying to set it up. And I'm still a bit confused. But I think I might have an idea. So I've got two ideas to try, and then after that we'll talk about something else. The other day I tried redrawing this, and I said, can I make it work like this? And I was like, oh no, it's not going to work like that. Maybe it would. If I put the collector of, I've got the beta enhanced VAS transistor here, goes into the VAS transistor. If I collect it instead of to the collector to 0 volts, right? And then off of its emitter going to here, right? And then I've got my current sink here. The way I see it, the drive is going to try and turn this on. We're just going to make current flow down here. And if it turns it off, it's going to make current try and flow down here. Actually, I just realized there's a problem with that. It can't drive positive. You know what I'd really like? Symmetrical VAS. I'm seriously thinking about it. I tried to improve everything on this design when I built it, and the thing that I'm really not proud of myself for is the fact that I didn't do something about the VAS transistor. I made all these nice current mirrors, current sources, input pairs, nice stages, and I left the VAS transistors hung off the rail. I feel bad about that. I was also thinking about putting a current source here for the emitter of the beta enhanced transistor. So 2 current sources. I'm not trying to save cost here. This is supposed to be an expensive app. It's supposed to be a duck's cuts. So I've got to do some thinking. I'll do this off camera, but I need to work out how to build a current sink with a PNP transistor. My thinking behind this, well, can I set this up differently? No. My thinking behind this is I'm going to have to just do a bit of study on current sources again. If I can get a current source that will go all the way down to the rail without being 0.6 volts off the rail, maybe that will allow the VAS transistor to swing all the way down. I was thinking about what I was just saying before, and I think it might actually work. I was being silly when I said, hang on, there's no positive drive. And here's why. Your current source here, you got your bias here too. I'll just put the letter B connecting there, right? Some current flows down there, some flows that way, some flows back that way. The total current here exiting these 2 nodes is the current source current. Now, your VAS transistor, let's just ignore my current source. When it turns on, it sinks all this current. So there's no positive drive, and the negative is getting drive. When it's off, it's not sinking current, and well, that's when its collector's hooked up to there. Sorry, I drew this the wrong way. When its collector's hooked up to there and its emitter goes to the rail. Sorry, guys. Alright, so when its collector goes to there and its emitter goes to the rail, when it's off, the positive drive. When it's off, all current gets sunk from here, down here, and from, the negative rail collector of the PNP transistor at its base, those two currents get sunk, right? Now, if all we're doing with the transistor like that, and bear in mind it's driven from the beta enhanced transistor, which comes from the 0-volt rail. So again, all that can do is switch on towards negative or not switch on towards negative. So all this transistor can do is switch on or switch off. Yeah. And if that's the case, why can't I drive that transistor from 0 volts as well? I have to think about this for a sec. Alright, so I've done a bit more thinking. Let's put this to the side. I'm still going to work on that. But the wires that I removed, I think that was actually a completely pointless thing to do. And here's why. Those 2 points there basically go to the negative end of the voltage divider that this cap smooths the LED to provide a midpoint, like bootstrapped, smoothed reference for the current source. If you think about it, on startup, as these caps come up to charge and the rail caps come up to charge, if anything, the top negative rail is going to be closer to positive than 0, and the negative rail vice versa. So as long as I don't solder the wire here, shit, the polystyrene cap. Oh no. Did I just melt it or did I just get solder on it? I just got solder on it. Alright, sorry about my head. So if I take this back off, take these back off. Just leave those over there. I'll put these green wires back. I'll just do it off camera because you already seen me take them off, and you probably don't want to watch me put them back on. I've got too long and too short, so I'll work out what the go is with that. I'd say the short is, yeah. Alright, I'm going to put these wires back and then we'll discuss my plan. Actually, I just want to talk about this whilst I'm doing it, because I was thinking about the current flow with the two ground traces, and as I said, each one of these wires goes to something that's going to be, how do I say it, going to be slowly coming up or down in voltage as the amp comes up to power in reference to the 0 volt rail. Right? Now, if the bottom half, this bottom ground wire, the bottom half of the circuitry goes to the bottom rail, it will be doing the exact opposite. Oh, bloody hell. I just can't get this. It'll be doing the exact opposite of what the top rail would be doing, and vice versa, which means that's actually what we want. We want these circuits to essentially, how do I explain this the best way, track their adjacent rails voltage, performance, however you want to think of it. Not having a good word day, clearly. Having a hard time even working out how I got this wire in here. Oh, it must have been a long one. I'll work it out, don't worry. Anyway, I'm going to pause the video again. I get the feeling that I've got something wrong here. I mean, hey, it's closer to the center ground. I can't complain. I'll be back soon. Alright, so continuing on from yesterday, I'm probably not exactly picking up from the exact same spot. I mean, we've already worked out what this does. Actually, I want to put that 180 ohm resistor back in there. Just if I get too many things in too many different places, it will get confusing for me. Collector. Source. Sorry. Just want the current source set up ready to go. So I was thinking about this, and this is the thing that interests me. Well, I've got a few things I want to do. I want to look into, can I add another current mirror, like another 4 transistor current mirror on top of that, and have a dual output that's out of phase, like push-pull output. Not on one wire, I mean 2 wires. One wire swings up and the other wire swings down, and vice versa. Is there a way I can convert that circuit to that? If there is, I think I might just remove everything off of here, except for the driver transistors, and build a symmetrical VAS. Current source at the top, current signal at the bottom, 2 VAS transistors, bias in the middle, and the 2 drive signals going to it. I'm still going to try and sort this design out first, and like I said, my next amp's going to be even higher quality. That's what I'm going to do for my next amp, because I basically took an output stage that I designed years ago and made as good as I could, then looked at the Blameless amp, the Hummingbird amp, a few other amps, and looked at those, and there was so many things I didn't like, like the shared current sources. I built separate current sources. the input pair, just a single pair, I put CFP. The current mirror, sometimes no current mirrors, sometimes it's a 2 transistor current mirror, sometimes a 2 transistor current mirror with a third helper transistor, but never a symmetrical 4 Wilson current mirror. Here's where I just took Doug Self's word for it, and this is where I feel like an idiot. When it came to the VAS, I just read his paper, and his paper said use this arrangement, and it's, you know, it's the duck's guts, it's the best. And after developing the thing, I've come to realize that everything else I developed, the input stage, the current sources, the driver stage, the output stage, the bias, it is amazing. The VAS, it is terribly unstable, heavily relies on the rail, has terrible rejection, has undefined current in one direction. It's just, I don't like it. So the thing that baffles my mind a little bit is, obviously you've got your current source at the top. When the VAS transistor, let me think about this, gets turned off all the way, that current source current gets to go a little bit through the bias string, mainly into the NPN transistor to drive the positive half. When a VAS transistor gets turned on, it sinks that current, the drive current, and it pulls the current out of the PNP transistor, right? And it turns the negative side on, the PNP side. Now, when it's turned off, all the current source current, like I said, goes in, it drives the positive rail depending on how much it's turned off. What I can't understand is why when I put a current source there, when it's turned on, not off, why doesn't the current source current then, or sink, drive the required sink? That's something that I can't quite get my head around, and I'm finding it quite confusing, I'm not going to lie. So yeah, don't know what to say. I was thinking maybe it's something to do with voltage drop, like maybe the way I've got the transistor, it's not able to fully go into saturation because it's just being driven like an emitter follower sort of thing, so it's got a 0.6 volt drop. If that's the case, then I would think that would have a 0.6 volt drop. But anyway, if that's the case, maybe that's taking it too far away from the rail. So if I design a current source, current sink, out of a PNP transistor, when that gets turned on all the way, the PNP transistor should be able to saturate and go to the rail, I would think. I get a bit rusty when it comes to working out. I have to think about it, but that's what I'm going to work out now. I'm going to try and work this out. As you can see, I've been mocking up some stuff. I was thinking of this, putting the top current source, the bottom current source, and then a VAS transistor on each side, or drive there from another sort of setup. I haven't worked it out yet, but I'm trying to work that out now. But like I said, I'm going to continue trying to work on this current source first. If I can't get the current source to work, just to get this amp finished, because it's not the end of the world. It's not terrible having the VAS off the rail. It's just not good. The other thing I can do is I can divide. I think I wrote this down. Try current source the other way, PNP. Extreme RC on negative, what? Can't even read my own writing, it's not good. Anyway, what I was going to do is the 68 ohm resistor for the VAS, split it into, say, two 27 ohm resistors, or a 27 and a 33. Put the 33 from the rail, take that to a 470 mic cap, take that to the rail, and then take the 27 ohm resistor to the emitter of this. That way, it's got its own filtered rail. The other thing I was saying suggested would be to literally cut out this bit of negative track here. I guess for this one too. Put a link around to connect the rest of the track back together and create an extra negative rail that's about 2 or 3 volts below this negative rail and run it from that. Which also tells me that this thing has trouble swinging down hard enough, and that's what the problem is. Which is kind of evident because when it gets stuck, it swings positive, not negative on the output. So we know where our problem is. It's Doug Sell's VAS. He thinks it's the best thing in the world. It's actually not. And if you think that's just because I'm having problems with this board, that problem I'm having aside, all those other reasons, I didn't make them up. Go look at it. It's actually terrible. So I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to give the PNP idea a shot, and well, I'll come back and show you what I've got. All right, I meant to do it at the start of the video, but I just did it now. Excuse me. Let me just get a drink. That's better. I've adjusted the angle of my camera, so when I lean my head in forwards, instead of it taking over all the screen, you shouldn't see more than that. The other thing I've done, other than moving the camera back, and I've moved the stand over that way a bit, still move it more, that's better. Oh God. I've adjusted the angle too, so it used to be straight like that. I've made it like this, that way I can have it even further back and looking at my work. Now, the lens on the camera is under my finger here, so closest to me. If I orientate the phone, sorry, it's going to be upside down for a sec. The other way, you wouldn't see my head at all. So I would have to do that, but basically have the phone somewhere around here, a bit higher. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me just turn this back around. For now, just sorry. To finish this video, I'm just going to leave it like this. I've already adjusted it a bit, so it should be a lot better. But after I'm done recording, this stand that the phone's on is going to get moved over, and then the phone will be turned around, still on the same angle, what I just showed you basically. Then you'll have an even better viewing angle of my work, and my head won't get in the way. All right, with that out of the way, I want to talk about a few things. I've made a list of stuff. Now, the 100 ohm resistor that I omitted from the collector of the beta enhanced transistor, I really thought 100 ohms would just offer a bit of damping, not really current limiting or anything, just a bit of damping, and I didn't think it would cause a problem. But people on DIY audio reckon that adding resistance there well, obviously, is going to create a Miller effect, a variable Miller effect, because you're turning the collector into an amplifier. Well, I did some research into this, and it turns out, a resistor in the value of 100 ohms to 1k won't Miller multiply by jack shit. And I wasn't going to put a k in there, I was going to put 100 ohms in there. I can guarantee that offers a lot more high frequency stability having it than not having it. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add those 100 ohm resistors. So 4 times 100R. Now, the other thing I found was that the beta enhanced VAS transistor, not the VAS transistor, if the emitter resistor is not low enough in value, you won't have enough current flow in the transistor. There's a range it needs, usually like microamps, it might not have very much gain. A milliamp, it might have a lot of gain. A few milliamps, it might fall off again. I'm talking for a small device like this. So that is actually a crucial point. So I'm going to lift that resistor and we're going to measure the current flow through that, just as it is now. Because it is, when it's not doing its thing, it will start up. It will run at 0 offset, which means that the input state is driving through the VAS to hold it where it should be. So I can take a current measurement on that, and it'll be accurate because that transistor will be in its active region. So we'll do that. Let me make a note of that too. I have to make notes of all this because there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be going over here. So all right, next thing. Okay, this is an obvious one, and I've been thinking about this from the start, but because I haven't seen any signs of oscillation, that's why I haven't done it. But increase the Miller capacitance. I've designed this amplifier for performance, absolute performance. The input stage is off its head, all the current sources, the types of transistors I used, the matching, the quality of parts, the output stage, the buffer stage, the speed of the devices I used. All these transistors are 160 to 300 megahertz transistors. The drivers and outputs are like 30 megahertz. So I've gone for a pretty conservative 47 picofarads, roughly. It's about 44, 43. Anyway, I was thinking about increasing that just temporarily to, like, I don't know, maybe 4 times that, like 220, just to see if it has an effect. I don't think it will. Now, this is something I've been looking into. You know how before I was talking about putting a current sink or a current source on this beta enhanced transistor? Well, I'm not so much worried about its emitter going through 2.2k resistor to the rail, but I am worried about it sourcing current directly from its collector off of the 0 volt rail, because all the noise that gets coupled onto that rail is then going into that transistor. So I had a look into this, and wouldn't you know it, you could put a current source on that. So something else to look at. I get a funny feeling we're going to end up with as many current sources and sinks at the bottom as what we do at the top, when we've got 2 at the top at the moment. Alright, so something else that was suggested, and I have seen this in a few designs I've looked at, is a Baker clamp diode going from, I think it's the base of the beta enhanced transistor to the collector of the VAS transistor. I think what it's there to do is when the input tries to overdrive the beta enhanced transistor, it feeds forward to the VAS transistor, and that prevents rail sticking, I think. I could have this a little bit wrong, but it's definitely something to look into. So the best diode for this is the VAS 21J. Now, I don't know if I've got any of those, but I do have a lot of very nice small shotkeys. I'm not just talking about like BAT 42, 6, 48, 57, 11s. I've got like BAV stuff. I've got heaps of different diodes. I don't even know if they're shotkeys. I've got so many diodes, it's not funny. So I should be able to find something like that. Otherwise, I'll order it if, like I'll put another diode in that's similar, and if that helps, then I'll order that particular diode. I'm not going to order it otherwise. Although if it's actually, this diode's got like the lowest reverse transfer characteristics capacitance of all shotkeys basically. So I actually will order some of those because they're going to come quite handy for audio circuitry and RF circuitry and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't know about those. So yeah, I'm going to order some of them. VAS 21J. Alright, so now the thing about the 100 ohm resistor is I haven't decided on that yet, because as I said, the VAS beta enhanced transistor might get a current source. If it gets a current source, the current source is replacing the 100 ohm resistor. So those two things are kind of interchangeable, right? Anyway, that's all the stuff that I've discovered that will make this circuit better. It still hasn't shed any light, not too much light, on the fix. However, the fact that, like I said, I rediscovered that there's this instability area with it being hung off the negative rail. What I've seen about the Baker clamp and rail sticking and that, this area is a problem area in this design. It's quite obvious now, and I mean quite obvious. So, yeah, just thought I'd share that with you guys. So, where to start? I'll tell you something else. A really, really good solution is to take its emitter and connect it to a regulated rail that's, you know, low noise, no noise and ripple on it, that's a couple of volts, I think 3 volts, they said, below the negative rail. That's something I'm thinking about doing, because it seems to be impossible to get a current sink in there without turning it into a complementary VAS, where you've got a top VAS transistor and a bottom VAS transistor. If you can get a current sink in there instead of that resistor, that would be amazing. That's what I'm trying to do, but I can't seem to get it to work. So, because I want to give it rejection from the rail, and I don't want it having undefined current in one direction. The other thing, like I said, is this little transistor giving it a current source. So that's something I want to look into. Anyway, for now, what I want to do is, like I said, start it up, with it stable. I lift this resistor, put it amp meter in series with it, see how many milliamps is currently going through it. Like I was calculating the resistor value based on my rail voltage being high, but I wasn't thinking about the fact that that transistor there, although it's running off the rail, its voltage going in the base is, yeah, you know what, no, it is running off a higher voltage. What am I saying? Yeah, no, that resistor value should be roughly right, but I still want to double check. So I'm going to lift it quickly. I'm not going to get much more done today. I'm literally falling asleep on the job. Going to get this measured quickly, if it'll start up stably. Oh, you know what? VAS transistors emitter wasn't connected to the rail. Alright, let's start it up. Wow, 26 milliamps? Really? We have discovered a huge problem. I'm kind of confused about this because, well, is that resistor getting hot? Oh, fuck. Excuse my language. Sorry, guys. Oh, Jesus. Oh, why did I do that? Because I didn't see anything wrong with the amp and the current draw was low on the power supply. I assumed it started up normal. Oh, that was not anything but normal. Man, my finger is killing me. Got a little shiny line in my pinky now. I'm sure that's not always 27 milliamps. How the bloody hell am I going to do this? Maybe if I add the 68 ohms back in here. Bit dodgy, but we'll see. No. No. Okay, so that's not right. Geez, that got hotter, right? It's melted to my clip and destroyed it. Why on earth is that happening? Because when my amp starts up with no offset and it's running, the power supply's got no current draw on it, or like 40, 50 milliamps. And that's all it had just then. And I swear both the current source lights were on, the VAS and input stage, which if it's not drawing current and both those lights are on, that usually means that it's up and running and there's zero offset. So I don't know what the bloody hell just happened. My finger's stinging, I can tell you that much. Oh, come on. God, my finger. Sorry, keep complaining. I don't know if this is going to show. I have to unlock the camera. I don't know if... Yeah, there it is. That. It's always the little ones that freaking kill. Anyway, let's see what this is doing. What the hell? You have to be shitting me. Man. I guess the extra lead length and the inductance of the lead, and that's making it unstable in series with that resistor. I was thinking about getting another meter and putting in milliamp mode, so it's got a high resistance, and then putting that in parallel with that resistor, but it's still not exactly accurate. Jeez, that's so annoying. Surely we can get this. No. Oh yeah? There we go. So it's 1 milliamp, which is actually roughly what it's supposed to be. 1.5, 2 milliamps is the most you'd want quiescent current in its active region to be going through it. So that's correct. I mean, that's a good thing. That's certainly not a bad thing. I was concerned that my resistor value would be a little bit too high. I'm wondering, I might get a 1K resistor. Stick a 1K resistor on it. Geez, that burn's really starting to come up. It's getting worse by the minute. I'm not making this up. And I mean, you guys can see that it's not really focusing. Yeah, there you go. Bastard resistor. Always when you're trying to do something, you burn yourself and you end up sitting there with a cup of water or ice or something cold for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and all you wanted to do was work. Oh, it's happened to me so many times. At least this is small, I can keep working. I'm going to get a 1K resistor. And lock the focus on my phone, sorry about that. Right, put some solder on one end of this. Attach it very quickly to that. Do the same thing. How much current is going through it with a 1K resistor? Because everyone says use 470 to 1K, but no one considers how much current's running through the particular person's input stage, how much current the VAS transistor requires, the gain of the beta enhanced transistor, the rail voltage. Like, you can't just be like, oh, it's this value resistor for every single... No, it doesn't work like that. Every time I see that, it makes me cringe. When I started building this amp, I started copying a few basic just basic component values from like Doug Self's Blameless amp and a few other things like the Hummingbird amp. When I started thinking about the values, I was like, that's not the best value. Anyway. Wow. Just wanted to see how stable or unstable it is. I'm too curious now. 470. You know, that was my original value, 470 ohms. But I thought about it and I thought, no, that's going to be dissipating too much power and ruin the gain of the transistor. I need to work out how much swing is there. That's the thing. I'm not sure. But the thing is, input stage can swing up to, I don't know, 20, 30 volts, whatever it is. But then it gets loaded down here, and this has got a bit of gain, current gain. And then you've got the VAS transistor, which has got gain. So I don't know exactly how big the signal actually is at this point and at this point. Is it a couple of volts, 10 volts, 20 volts? So that's why I don't know what value resistor to put there. And the other thing is the bias voltage on the transistor relative to the rail, how much current's going to flow like DC through the resistor. Anyway, that's a 470 ohm resistor. Huh, 2 milliamps. Well, I'm just going to go look at the data sheet for this transistor quickly. I think I'm going to put 1K in there. I think that's going to work out to be about 1.5 milliamps. 1K, 1.2K, something around that ballpark. Yeah, I think 1.2K. I'll tell you in a minute. Because what I want to do is I'm going to have a look at the data sheet for the transistor. I want to see what where it's HFE. I changed that from the KSC 1845 to 3200, yes, and that's got a really high gain. You know what? I've got a transistor tester here that I can look at 10 microamps base current, 1 milliamp, 10 milliamps. So that'll even give me an idea. I'm going to stick one in that and have a look at the data sheet, and I'll be back in a sec. Alright, the particular data sheet that I have, and I can't be bothered downloading one right now, it doesn't have all the curves down the bottom. So I just want to show you guys something. This is kind of funny. You don't always need a data sheet, sometimes you just need your brain. So 10 microamps, 350, 1 milliamp, 120. 10 milliamps, 25. All right. Remember, this measures at 1 or 5 milliamps. It'll tell us. I just can't remember. But we can get an idea of where this transistor's peak gain is without going to the data sheet. 495. What did we get on here? 352 at 10. That's interesting. 495, 5 milliamps collector current, base 1 milliamp. Now, how is that possible? Now I'm really confused. You don't know what the collector current is on this. That's the problem. For the love of science, ladies and gentlemen, for the love of science. The collector current is 100 milliamps. So 1 milliamp of base current's 100 milliamps of collector current. There you go. That's why it's so different. 10 microamps of base current is 4 milliamps. Alright, so this thing loads the transistor down a lot more than what this does in terms of collector current. So that's something to bear in mind. Now, we're concentrating on collector current, not base current. So the good thing about that is we now know that at 5 milliamps of collector current and 1 milliamp base current, we've got like 400, 500, whatever it was, gain. At 100 milliamps collector current, but still 1 milliamp base current, we've got, excuse me, I've lost the transistor. Wait, what? Oh, God. One moment, please. Oh, it's right here. We've got $150. So you can work out that at 2 milliamps even, that transistor is still going to have at least, whatever, 350, 300, 250. It's going to have a decent number of gain still. It's not going to drop off, and maybe when you get to 10 milliamps and then every 10 milliamps you go up, it's going to drop off by quite big numbers as you approach 100. But even then, as you saw, there was still 150 gain left. That's why I chose this transistor over the other one I was using in there, because it's got double the gain for a given current. So, with our newfound knowledge, I think it's I'm going to take a quick voltage measurement of something as well. Here's why. I want to see the voltage that's across this transistor. Let me go get a 10 meg, wait, I don't even know what the input impedance is on my, that's not going to work. Bloody hell. I just can't get a reading without it becoming unstable, which is so bloody annoying. Oh, bloody hell. This is ridiculous. Hardest bloody part of an amp to work on, I swear to God. I'm going to go do some research into this. Just a little bit more. I'll be back in a minute. I just want to know what I should do about that resistor value. I'm trying to work out if the current that I'm seeing there now, does that increase when the amp's running? Or is that transistor already on, say, like halfway or whatever, and it's already dissipating as much power across itself as it can, if that makes sense? Because if that's only like 1 milliamp now, but it goes up to like 10 milliamps when it's running, and I lower the resistor, that's going to go up to like 100 milliamps, if you get what I'm saying. So let me just work that out. I'll be back in a sec. Well, that didn't take much thinking. I went and sat down, and as soon as I sat down, I thought, you know what? Whenever there's overdrive or the signal's cranked up, or it's trying to pull it back from rails sticking to back to zero or whatever, there's going to be voltage there. So no, I'm leaving the 2.2k. That I did calculate the right value for the level of power and rail voltage this amp has, I believe. Alright, so I had a quick look into it. The Baker clamp diode is actually there. Well, it goes the other way. It doesn't go towards the VAS transistor. It goes away from it to the base of the beta enhanced transistor. What it's there for is so that when the VAS transistor gets stuck on or saturated or whatever, there's a current path to discharge its base. I think that's going to be a very helpful thing. And also I've ordered 50 pieces, because it was only a few dollars, like literally a couple of dollars, like $3, $4, VAS 21J. So they're coming. Alright. I had to think about why that resistor gets hot, because I was thinking the amp's starting up when I see low current draw, and it's not, you know, like it's centered, it started up fine. So I couldn't understand why that was hot, but I've come to realize something. It's rail sticking. As we know, I should have jerried, because I've seen that a few times. And when it's rail sticking, this would be driving this transistor full on to try and bring it down. And of course this resistor would get hot. So that explains that question. I kind of feel a bit silly now. It was getting late last night, but anyway. Right, also, as I promised that I was going to make a new camera angle, this is it. Let me just lock the focus here, that's better. Leave it in the comment section what the quality is like, the brightness, all that sort of stuff. To me it looks a little bit too bright on the screen, but I'm not sure if I've got my screen brightness turned up, or it could just be the angle. I might need to move the light actually. Let me... You have to let me know what looks better, more like that or more like that. Leave it in the comment section. But yeah. Also, let me know what you think about the camera. I can move it Whoops. I can move it quite a bit this way too. I've got quite a few different options now. So leave it down there what you think. Alright, I think I've worked everything out that I need to work out. You know, like I've been talking about all the little things that can be sorted out to improve the VAS circuit. I've got this list of upgrades that I'm going to do once the amp is complete, right? Well, I am kind of happy that this VAS issue happened because, as you all know, I've been saying the whole time that I'm kind of annoyed that I've got, you know, current mirror here, current source there, current source there, but these two are just hung off the rails. Well, I've finally come up with a solution for it. Obviously, we've got to fix this and get it running first, but so if the VAS transistor itself will benefit from having a sub rail, say instead of the -63, it's -66, I can make a regulated -66 volt rail for the VAS transistor, right? Then it won't be directly on the rail. It'll have awesome rejection. And I think I'll have to look into this, but I think it's going to be for the beta enhanced transistor too. All right. The other thing I've decided is a current source for the beta enhanced transistor, because if you think about it, beta enhanced transistor is coming straight off the 0 volt rail. Fit a current source here. It's got rejection from there. If this line here and this line here come off of a regulated rail, they've got rejection from this rail. And then everything in the input and VAS circuit will have awesome rejection and regulation. And just RC filtering on the rails that are there that I've got will do perfectly fine. So that's my solution. So basically that piece of paper is going to go with this piece of paper, and this is all the stuff to look into upgrading it after it's done. Like I said, I'm trying to build like the most awesome amp in my opinion, and you know, I'm picking things up as I go and noting them down, and yeah, anyway, that's that. I just wanted to go over that quickly. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try a couple of things. I'm going to try adding a Baker clamp diode, you know, to go back from the collector of the VAS transistor to the base of the beta enhanced transistor to help this discharge in case that is my rail sticking problem. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and remove this 68 ohm resistor from the rail and run it from a sub rail, because I've got plenty of supplies in here, so I can produce another rail that's up to like 60 volts below this rail if I wanted to. So we'll try those two things and see if either of those solve the problem. If those things solve the problem, then I'm just going to go all out at it. And put it this way, if I have to do a sub rail and a Baker clamp diode, I'm probably going to add the current source for this transistor. And I mean, like I said, if I've got to do the sub rail, I might as well add the current source. So we'll see what happens. So we'll start with the Baker clamp diode, then we'll start with a minus rail that's a little bit lower than this minus rail, just for this transistor at first. But I want to see, in my mind, it would be better for both of these transistors to be run off that rail, because, well, from a functionality perspective, yeah, no, it would, because then this can drive this down lower as well. So yes, they will both have to go off that sub rail. Yeah, so that's really good, because then I end up with rejection from the rail on the bottom side, and just by adding a current source to this transistor, I've got rejection from that 0-volt rail. So yeah, all right, I'm going to go get an appropriate diode and we'll get into this. You know, I just also wanted to point out quickly that I do understand that most of this problem, if not all of it, is probably caused from my power rails being on long leads with resistance, inductance, you know, not good decoupling, bypassing, all that sort of stuff, no bulk storage at the moment, or a little bit, but you know, that's fine, I get that. But the thing is, although there's probably other ways of fixing it, like overcompensating it and stuff like that, I'd rather build an amp that's really stable given poor conditions, but without a lot of compensation. Now, I know that sounds like a hard thing to pull off, but hey, everything else in this amp is working perfectly. It's only this one circuit, so if I can pull it off with everything else, we can do it with this. And just remember, the compensation on this is a mere 40-something picofarads. There's a 47, I've forgotten the values. $82 and $100. Let me think about that. 82 and 100. That's going to be about 41 picofarads. So, yeah, quite conservatively compensated. So that's the other thing we're going to look into in a minute on top of the Baker clamp. I'll put the Baker clamp diode, add some more picofarads there, and then look at the sub rail. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. All right. I'm actually going to end the video in a few minutes, and here's why. I've actually spent like most of the day just doing research, and I've dug up quite a lot. I can tell you now, we will be experimenting with the Baker clamp. There's a couple of different ways of implementing that, so we'll be looking at that in the next video. Someone said the thing with the Baker clamp is you can get a Schottky diode with a really, really low capacitance, reverse transfer capacitance, but they have leakage. Or you can get a Schottky like a 1N5711, which I've got too, that's really low leakage but higher capacitance. So what I've done is I've ordered the BAS21J, which is even better than the BAS21. And someone suggested to put a 10 ohm resistor in series with the diode to I've got it on screen, just give me a sec. Right, yeah, so someone said 10 ohms should be enough to swamp the capacitive effects. Basically what happens is with the diode in parallel to the compensation capacitors, the reverse transfer characteristics of the diode, its capacitance changes with voltage and current, which you know, creates dips and peaks and weird stuff in the feedback response. But you know, it's such a small capacitance, so it'd be quite easy to swamp it, quench it, snub it, damp it, whatever you want to call it. Someone said 10 ohm should be enough. I'm going to put 100 ohm in series with the diode. Sorry, I shouldn't be reading whilst I'm talking. I'm going to put 100 ohm in series with the diode. I just feel like 10 ohms is a little bit too low, but it is a really small capacitance too. No, I think I'll put 10 ohm in. I mean, after the thing's built and we can actually put waves through it and have a look at the response and play around with the values of these components, we'll know better. But yeah, I'll just put 10 in for now. I'll move it up to 100 and see if that improves it after the amp's up and running. So what I wanted to do now is just quickly show you guys all the research I've done. I can tell you now that everything I've got here, regulated extra low rail for the emitter of the beta enhanced transistor and the VAS transistor is definitely happening. Baker clamp. Well, if the lower rail fixes it, I won't put the Baker clamp. And yeah, resistance in series with the Baker clamp. Anyway, let's go to the computer. So this is all just from different people doing different things. This person was using a VAS current limiting transistor and it had severe oscillation. That's exactly why I did not add the VAS current limiter, for that exact reason. Anyway, yeah, so they were asking about what happens with Baker clamps. So then I found this. So I measured it TXD20, adding the diode increased from 0.005 to 0.006. What do you mean maybe? It either did or it didn't. Anyway, so yeah, with the BAS21J and the resistor in series with it, I'll be fine. Next thing. This just helps to explain to you guys what I was trying to explain the other night, and I just wasn't saying it in the right way. The Baker clamp will divert base current away from the transistor effectively, because in a beta helper situation, you've got the VBE drop of the first transistor, then the saturated collector voltage on the main transistor, which when turned on will be to within 100 to 200 millivolts of the emitter voltage. The 0.6 to 0.7 across the Baker clamp diode will be conducting almost all the excessive base drive, leading to overhang. How on earth is it going to be 0.6 to 0.7 if it's a Schottky diode? You know, I can't be bothered, because then once I take it out, I'll never get it back in. I'm just going to Google it. I thought they were Schottkys. I'm confused now. Anyways, I worked that out afterwards and work out how that's going to work. Anyway, it goes on to say for a single transistor VAS, a Baker clamp can be used if you add another diode in series with the feed to the base. I would not do that. I don't want to add a diode in the signal path. I'm already worried about the diode bias network and want to put a snubber on it. Reading this is from Doug Self, I think. It literally, admits that there are problems here. Also, it says, what I was saying before, putting a RCR network on the negative rail to the emitter of it. But yeah, like I said, I'd rather make a regulated sub rail than do that. I've already got RC filtering on all the rails, separate RC filtering for each rail. I'd rather make a regulated sub rail. Then I was having a look at this. This is a paper from, I don't know, Texas Instruments. Sorry, I'm getting very tired. I've been going to bed early, so this is really late for me now. And I was looking at this in input stage, blah, 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 blah. Look here. Okay, there's a beta enhanced transistor, the VAS transistor, and there's another transistor before the beta enhanced transistor. It's obviously part of the drive. I don't know if, I've got a funny feeling the reason this is done is because putting the transistors like that would cancel out their Oh wait, no, they're both, oh no, one's, yeah. Okay, they've probably done that to cancel out the temperature coefficient between the two. That's an interesting idea. But the other thing I thought was interesting was the fact that there's a current source feeding it. And again, we see that the VAS transistor doesn't have a resistor connected to it. It just goes straight to the rail. In this case, it's a different rail, but still straight to the rail. Like I said, if I was going to add a resistor, it'd be very small, like 100 ohms. Otherwise, it would cause a varying Miller effect. And yeah, that's what someone said here, 100 ohms to 1K in a collector won't Miller multiply that many times. I don't know about going up to 1K, but yeah, 100 ohms, yeah, fair enough. This is the thing, I literally measured this the other day and worked out that 2.2K was the right value for my circuit. That's the thing, I think those people just write these posts without thinking about the voltage and current that they're running in their particular circuit. Anyway, I might revisit that again just in case I'm wrong. Oh, this is for a single transistor VAS. Alright, what else have I found? Yep. Oh yeah, this is what I was talking about with the collector of the beta enhanced transistor. Again, adding a resistor to the collector. Anyway, I'm going to be adding a current source and a regulated rail at the bottom of it, so that will be fixed. Yep, that is why I picked this design, but I just thought that was a nice way of describing it. That's why I kept that. VAS 21J. Some people on here know what they're talking about. BAV 21. I've seen BAV 99s and I've seen everything in there. Anyway, as you can see, Baker clamp. We've got the current limiting transistor here too, but here's your VAS transistors, beta enhanced, and the VAS transistor, your compensation, and your Baker clamp. I really wish I did this, a full complementary VAS. I'm not happy with this VAS design, but I'll tell you what, with the regulated rail and the current source and all that, if I get good performance out of it, I actually will be happy with it. So we'll just have to see how this goes. Here's what I was saying about someone talking about 10 ohms in series with the diode, and they were talking about the 1N5711, which I've got. But anyway, interesting. You guys just pause if you want to have a read of anything. So there you go. So that's the research I've done. I've told you the solutions I've come up with. First, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run an extra power supply over here and run these two devices off of a sub rail. See if that does anything. If that doesn't, I will maybe leave it on the sub rail, maybe put it back on its own rail add the Baker clamp, see if that does anything. The first thing I'm going to do, surprisingly, before I do any of that, is I'm actually going to lift the resistors on each of the power rails that go to the left channel, and I'm going to, what else would I have to disconnect? That should be it. No power to that. Yeah, I'll disconnect the resistors to that so the left half of the amps is completely off. I'll add some more millicapacitance first, and we'll see if it will start up stable, and if not, we'll try the sub rail and then the Baker clamp last. For obvious reasons, I'm trying to build a high performer here. I don't want to band-aid things. As I said before, I want to fix them. That's why I'm willing to put the effort in to make a current source and the sub rail, because I'd rather do that than, say, increase millicapacitance and stick a Baker clamp in there, you know? Like, there's multiple ways of going around things in electronics, and I mean, it depends on what you're doing, but in this case, I want to go about it in the best way I can come up with. Anyway, like I said, the video has gotten on quite a bit, and it's a bit of information to take in, so I won't actually do anything. I'll end the video here, and now you all have a good understanding of what's going on. Obviously, when I turn it on, it gets unstable and it draws current and sticks to a rail. Obviously, it's that VAS transistor saturation problem. So, you know, we're not far off having it sorted out. We've got some new information and a much better understanding of it. And like I said before, this was the one part of the circuit I already wasn't happy with, because it directly is just run off the rails with no mirrors, sources, sinks, nothing, supplies, just, you know, which is going to offer just terrible PSRR. So yeah, I'm really happy to be doing this. It turns the design that I've been trying to make perfect, in my eyes perfect, because I'd made everything else in my eyes perfect, but found this one circuit to be flawed. So yeah, anyway, I'll see you all tomorrow, because now I know what I'm doing. I'm basically going to get up and just get into it. Spend all day researching, not all day, but quite a few hours here and there reading stuff. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.